Hello again, everybody. This is Craig Evans of Autism Hangout, and thank you for tuning into this Autism Hangout feature program series called Moving Out, where today is another installment in what's going on with my stepson Nolan. Today we're going to be talking to Chris, who owns and operates the group home where Nolan now lives. And I think once you see how this works, a lot of the concerns that many of you parents have about what's in store for my kids will be put aside. So let's meet Chris. Chris, it's delightful to actually sit down with you, and I wanted to say thank you for both me and Deanne for what you've done for Nolan. And finding you was not only a delight for us, but now that we see how you operate and what goes on in your group home, we're so comforted with the fact that there's people like you out there.
Thank you.
How did you get into group homes? How did you decide this is something you wanted to do?
It was 20 years ago. A friend of mine worked at a group home, and I really didn't know anything about it. It was a group home for folks with developmental disabilities, and she said, I think you'd be great at this, check it out. I was still in college, and I went, looked into it, I got a job there, and it's really what I've done ever since.
I've heard you say how much you enjoy working with these people.
I think everybody that does it enjoys doing it, and really you have to, because it's challenging, and if you didn't like working around these young people, you just you couldn't do it. For me, and I think for most people who do this, we love it. We have so many laughs in this house.
How many people currently live in your home?
4 people in my home.
Well, what are the average ages of these 4 people that live with you now?
For the most part, it's people 18 to mid-20s.
Okay.
That I get. That isn't always the case, and that isn't always the case for other homes. I've kind of put it out there that this is the population that I like working with. That age where they're transitioning often from their parents' home, towards a more independent living. The average age, I would say, is 25.
Okay. And some work, some go to school, and some don't do anything? What's the mix?
At my house right now, I have one young man who's going to school to college for nanotechnology, and doing very well. Another young man works three-quarter time. I've got your son.
Yeah.
We can say names. Okay.
Yeah, Nolan.
Nolan, who just moved in, and he's in a transitional program. And then the other guy who lives here, he was needing to just get away from an unhealthy lifestyle. So he's been here just to stabilize, and now we're looking at, okay, now you've been stable for a while, now where do you go from here? Is it school, or is it work, or what's the next thing? So it really it varies.
Let's talk a little bit about this as a group home. Out there,
and technically, Craig, it is an adult foster care.
Okay. How would you define the difference?
Adult foster care, the provider lives in the home.
Okay.
And whereas a group home, it would be rotating staff.
You are adult foster care.
Right. When I started doing this about 7 years ago, I think it was a newer thing. The adult foster care serving the autism and the mentally ill population. Before that, I think it was by and large the group homes that were doing that.
Are you certified or licensed by the state or the federal government?
Yeah, licensed by the state.
And do you have to take tests to do that, or what's required?
And ongoing training. We need to, I guess, just fulfill certain requirements. A background check, There's an interview, and it's actually quite extensive. And at that point, there's training in what is a vulnerable adult. We had different training, CPR, first aid. But as far as education in terms of autism or mental illness, that really is up to each individual to kind of decide what they need based upon what the needs are in their home.
How do states and counties police the people that are out there? How do they evaluate them as to whether or not their services are adequate or not?
I get evaluated yearly by the social workers. It's not a formal such thing where this is checked, this is checked, this is checked. But they kind of know how I operate, what clients, what residents have worked well in my home. They'll get a client, someone with needs, and they'll decide based upon, who's out there, what their past experience has been with them. And if someone isn't doing a very good job at all, I'm sure they just won't get many referrals.
Okay. You bring up a really interesting point, though. It really does pinion a lot on the social worker. The social worker gets to the point where they understand the client, in your case, or in my case, my son, and they understand his sensory issues, they understand intellectual issues, and they try to find the best fit in either a group home or foster care or a corporate home for that particular client. And then as it worked with us, we brought Nolan over here to meet you, to see the home. You've got critters around here, you've got animals, which Nolan is big into. You're very much an animal lover.
Yes.
And so a lot of our opinion as to which choice is best for Nolan, frankly, was based on you. The chemistry was right.
Yeah, and I think that's more typical. Just because so much of this, I don't think you can quantify. So you meet a person, you walk around their home, you see how they interact with the other residents in their home, and you kind of decide, is this a place I would want to put my son or daughter if the person's serving female clients. And I think it's the same thing with a social worker. It seems to me most of them try pretty hard to find a good fit. So you do want to be involved, ask what's out there, ask to look at more homes.
It's interesting because the homes that we looked at for Nolan, there was one corporate option. There was a second home that was highly structured for the people that really like structure and like rituals or habits, which is not Nolan. And then in coming to a place like yours, which was much more free-flowing, the fit was right. But we actually looked at 3 before we chose.
Yeah.
How do you get paid?
It really varies. Mostly it's from the state and the county. There's room and board expenses, which everybody that comes in here will pay room and board. For the population that I serve, they have greater needs. So, and that's usually paid through, well, at least in my home, it's been paid through what's called a caddy waiver.
Now you live in a suburban house. It's a beautiful house in one of the nicer suburbs of Minneapolis. And there's many rooms. There's different places they can go. There's a media room, a television room. There's the living room. There's dining rooms. Do the groups, do the men ever come together and have a common meal? Do they watch television shows together? What's it like socially at your house?
Well, at my house, it's a lot of young men with Asperger's, and a lot of them have had a lot of them can tell me they've never had a friend, or maybe had one friend throughout their life. So it's really neat when they come here, and because of some of them are maybe a bit shy or not it might take a little while to build the kind of trust or whatnot, but it's neat seeing that I've had so many of the clients become friends at the house.
Like I know in Nolan's case, when we brought him over here, Nolan being the animal lover that he is, you being an animal lover, We also found out that there are gamers here, and they're the kind of games that Nolan likes to play too. So
Yeah.
he's got television friends and he's got gaming friends.
Right.
And Nolan is a highly social aspie. So he, at some point, if he hasn't already, he will be seeking out some of that interaction. And that's another thing that about your physical home that appeals.
Yeah.
How long does somebody generally stay with you?
Again, it varies a lot. Two of the young men that have been here maybe 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
There was a young man who was just here for, he was here for about 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
He had to go to a more structured environment. Typically, they're coming here, and when they move on, if things go well, they go on to a less structured environment, perhaps independent living in an apartment or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Or I guess there's the other case where they come here, and after a few months, it's just not working out. They're not working, with me and the rest of the household to try to get along, and so we'll try to find another place for them that might work better.
There's that cliche, you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. But is there a typical transition period for somebody coming here? Because you've already pointed out they generally come from their home and this is their first move out to independence. Is there a period of time that it generally takes?
They all vary.
Mm-hmm.
And initially, a lot of times, we'll throw out, 2 years. They come here, and then we get a better idea of, okay, what are their needs? What do they need to do to move on independently? And a lot of times it seems more up to the client. At some point, they say, I think I'm ready to start looking for a place of my own. It seems like it's better when it's driven by that. Now I can talk again about the young men that live in my home. One of them, he just has such severe social anxiety. He feels very comfortable here. He can do a great deal in life as long as he's got this kind of safe base that he can come back to. And I'm not pushing him. I think he needs this and may continue to need it. And someday when he says to me, I don't know that I need this anymore, then we'll start discussing, when he's ready to move on. The other, another young man that lives here, he's able to do really great things. He's going to college as long as he has a really stable place to be. Now he said, when I finish up college, that's when I want to move on. So we'll look at that in a couple more years. The other young man, he has had some issues with chemical dependency. Tomorrow, we're celebrating his one year chemical free.
Fantastic.
Which is fantastic. And he's at this point saying he would like to move out on his own. And so we're just looking for how do we do that so that he doesn't get back into old habits and old friends.
What's your favorite part of what you do?
Oh, just being around these guys. They're just fun to be around. It is just a really, they're so interesting. They're funny.
Well, Chris, I know I'm not the only person in America watching this that would say thank you for being who you are and making it easy for our special kids that have challenges to find life and independence with somebody that cares about them as much as a parent cares about them. So I do want to say thank you for being a part of this discussion today and sharing everything you know. And thank you, Autism Hangout. I'll be back again soon with another installment in the Moving Out series.